All right, so live. Let me set this up over here. Um, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Oh, really? You're gonna do this to me now? Mm, let's. I don't get what am I doing wrong here? Oh, let's see here. View channel. Maybe I can get in this way. I need to. There it is. I need to be able to. Oh, yeah, let me turn off the volume here so that there's no echo. Hi, Ollie. It's going great so far. Hey, John Doe. Okay, so I am officially. Okay, so I can read the comments. I can discuss. I've got my water because this one might take a while. Who knows? That's good. So, anyway, hey everyone, it's Kevin the Entrepreneur, and this is a live discussion video, as you probably figured out. For those of you who are watching live, welcome. For those of you who are watching in the future, sorry you missed the hangout, but you're always welcome to the future ones, including a live podcast, which will be taking place on Wednesday with other prominent YouTube rideshare gig economy people. So, yeah. Oh, geez, my nose just itched. Sorry. So, anyway, as you can probably also tell by the title, that we are going to be discussing the Uber and Waymo lawsuit. It has actually been day one, and already I'm like, geez, I. This is going to take a toll on me, folks. I mean, the daily ride share in a couple days is going to be so nuts, so nuts. This trial This trial. Oh my gosh. And the funny thing about this trial is, as I was reading about it, and I'm personally ready for Uber to go away at this point, but man, Google is not looking a whole lot better either. I mean, yes, they were undoubtedly screwed, and yeah, they have every right to sue Uber, but geez, like Google is pretty much showing, just like Uber, that this really isn't about right and wrong. This is about who can get control over what they assume to be a future market, the market of driverless cars, which should be noted. Google, Uber, Lyft, Didi, Zipcar, all these companies have already introduced legislation to make owning one of these things illegal, that the companies have to provide it. So they are fighting for a future for these cars that we cannot own. We cannot control them ourselves, and soon we cannot, as they say, control our own destiny. I don't like saying things like that because it turns my channel into a conspiracy theorist channel, but there's a lot of truth to it. But we're going to start with the first article, and I know no one likes it when I'm reading from the phone, especially if I don't have it up here for you to see. But there's really no other way to do it because the camera's on this side and the comments are on this side. So, and this Recode article said, here's what we learned from day one of the Uber and Alphabet trial. Now, there's several articles, and I might even look at a couple of those other articles at one point during this live stream. But I think this is at least a comprehensive gathering of the facts, or at least what we know so far. So it says Uber and Waymo are finally having their day in court. Alphabet's self-driving arm, Waymo, and Uber gave their opening statements in front of a jury on Monday, commencing the courtroom phase of what has already been a messy legal battle. The day was entirely about opening arguments, but both Uber's and Waymo's strategy centers largely on one thing. Our opponents stooped to the levels they did because they were afraid we would beat them. And already we're going to take a moment and we're going to pause here, because here's the main problem with Silicon Valley and business in general is that while you always would race to be number one, there was always a sense that competition kept you on your guard. It kept you on your toes. It inspired you to do better. If there was someone around the corner that could potentially beat you, then you would have to constantly be on your guard to make a better product. Now, companies have never liked that idea, but it's always been healthy for the economy. And now we have a technology and one of the myths, one of the big dreams that would need to come true for the self-driving cars to truly catch on is basically that every single car on the road would have to be using one mapping feature, one server, one operating system, one company, because all these different operating systems and designs don't talk to one another. So there is a race to get there first and to dominate. And I don't know if I'm personally blaming the rise of Amazon and Apple, and to a slightly lesser extent Microsoft, because admittingly Microsoft was there first, for really getting people on the bandwagon that there can only be one. We must have it all. Not only must we have it all, we must dominate. So already we can see that, and this is what's so crazy. All we have are the opening statements. No evidence has been shown, at least not, I don't think so. Nothing has been shown so far. Well, okay, I take it back. Something has been shown because, yeah, I take that back. Sorry, there's something has been shown, but not a whole lot. Today was mostly about opening arguments, and the message on both sides is really clear. They would beat us to it. That is actually not an excuse to steal trade secrets. That is not an excuse to practice monopolistic practices. I admit I am not a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer, and Leonard, the YouTube lawyer, would probably be a better guy to discuss this with. And in fact, boy, I would really like to have him on my show and talk to him. But the thing is that the first reaction to the excuse, well, if we didn't stoop to these levels, our competition would beat us, should have been, well, then when they beat you, see what they're doing and do it better. That's how it's supposed to work. Someone makes a product, you can make another product, except you can make it better. You can differentiate it. Keep in mind, MySpace was around first. But why did Facebook survive and MySpace failed? Because Facebook was a better product. Having one universal design for all of the profiles, not this randomized MP3 design where people couldn't design anything and it crashed the web browsers. No. Simple design, everywhere, private unless you approved it. Facebook was simply a better product. And now that dominates, ironically. But anyway, so that was the opening statements, and that's my thought on that. Let's continue. Uber claims Waymo's lawsuit is baseless and is only suing because they were upset they were losing top talent at a time when competing companies began gaining ground. Waymo claims Uber was worried about getting beat in the self-driving car race, so it stole Waymo's trade secrets when it hired one of its former executives. And yeah, let's talk about that briefly, because here's the thing. Another part of this aspect that should be noted is that Uber does not own cars. I mean, I know they just bought some from Volvo, but Uber doesn't manufacture cars. And this is why Uber, whether they win or lose, or it's a stalemate, like if they have a hung jury, I don't know, Uber will never win this battle. Uber has no assets. They are an app. That's all they are. You don't get to take over an industry when you don't have any capital in it, so to speak. Uber has a ride hailing service that is very popular. Heck, it's a verb. Even if you are calling a Lyft, you say, I'm Ubering. And that's very strong. It is very powerful. Do not get me wrong. That is a very powerful thing. But here again, anyone can make the app. We have seen other people make their own apps. Heck, you even see people make some ride sharing apps for personal use. I get shut down pretty quickly because I don't have like the licensing and stuff in place. But anyone can make this, peer to peer ride sharing app. So Uber is entering a market that they are not equipped to face. They are just not equipped to face it, and that's the truth. It's a fact. Sorry to say, but it is. Okay, here's what's at stake. If Uber loses the case, it could have to pay out millions of dollars in damages and potentially stall its self-driving efforts. For Waymo, losing the case will have largely reputational risks. Alphabet rarely, if ever, sues over any issues with people or other companies, which means this litigation carries a lot of weight. It's true, by the way. Google actually, I'll give them this. I don't really completely trust Google. I think we give them way too. I think we give them way too much power too sometimes. But they aren't suing a lot of people, although that's probably also because so many people use their products that if Google finds a company they just disagree with, they turn off their ad sets or something. Just a thought. Here are Waymo's claims. These are the claims. 1. Uber was worried about getting beat in the self-driving car race, so it stole Waymo's trade secrets when it hired one of its former executives, Anthony Lewandowski, who had downloaded 14,000 files of Waymo data. The controversial engineer who was fired by Uber May has pleaded the fifth, much to the dismay of Uber's legal team. That's also one of the reasons he was probably fired. 2. The villain Waymo has set its sights on isn't Lewandowski. It's former Uber CEO Travis Kalanick, characterized by Waymo's attorneys as a rapacious executive whose win-at-all-cost attitudes and frustrations with his company's self-driving efforts led him to conspire with Lewandowski to steal the, quote, sauce, unquote, that catapulted Alphabet's self-driving development to be one of the leader of the pack. I think leader of the pack is a very strong word this early in the game, but okay, whatever. Let's go with it for the time being. 3, quote, Mr. Kalanick, the CEO at the time at Uber, made a decision that winning was more important than obeying the law, unquote, Alphabet attorney Charles Verhoeven said in his opening statement. I agree, by the way. 4, there will be documents, internal documents from Uber where the CEO of the company said, we want their cheat codes, he added. Now, what's really interesting about this is I was under the impression that Google had a strong suspicion. I was not aware that they might potentially have documents that quoted Kalanick of actually saying, yeah, we're going to steal this stuff. It's so, I mean, I've heard some crazy things about Kalanick since it started, but that's not one of them. And I have to say, I'm very intrigued about reading these documents. Here's the Waymo presentation as evidence, and I'm going to put a link to it at some point, but they have like a little, I know you can't really see it on this, and unfortunately my setup's not good enough for me to share it. Some more things. 5 texts between Lewandowski and Kalanick showing the two sides talking about winning at all costs and finding shortcuts. So, yeah, we're going to be discussing that in this live stream. And I'll probably be talking about that on a regular episode of the Daily Rideshare. So, 6, Lewandowski says we need to think through the strategy to take all the shortcuts we can find. In another, he says, I just see this as a race and we need to win. Second place is the first loser. Again, if you're number 2, that's fine. I mean, Walmart is number 1. Do you think Target's losing a lot of sleep? Granted, they probably would prefer to be number 1. Why wouldn't they? But they're number 2 in retail. Or I don't know who's, and by the way, I know Amazon's number 1 in retail. I'm talking about real stores. 7, I think this is 7. Notes from a meeting between Kalanick and the head of Uber's autonomous group at the time, John Bears, discussing the acquisition of the startup Otto, which Lewandowski founded upon leaving Google. The note showed Kalanick wanted to obtain Otto's intellectual property, roadmap data, and, quote, pound of flesh, unquote. That's such a frat boy thing to say. Of course, Kalanick probably said it. 8. Those notes outline the pros and cons of bringing Lewandowski on. The pros: Lewandowski is connected, motivated, and has autonomy in his blood. The cons: Uber would have to manage his ego. Yeah, Uber doesn't manage egos. They just don't. I mean, I mean, I know it's just the opening statements, but man, it already feels like Uber's lost somehow. 9. Also from notes, Bears wonders why Lewandowski was leaving Waymo when the company was, quote, so close to grabbing the crown. That is actually a good question. Although, should we assume he did do it? Because he hasn't been proven guilty yet. Let's just make that absolutely clear. He's not been proven guilty yet, so it's alleged. I would say the motivation would be they were close to the crown, like close to the prize. Like, the prize is within reach. It's so close, we can taste it. Well, if his theory or his belief of being second is bad, then the motivation would be we've got it so close, we can taste it. I'm going to take it. I'm going to sell this company to this company. I'm going to gain a controlling stake in that company, and then I will be number one. I mean, I could have it at the company I'm at now, but then I'd be number 2. That's probably why. That would be the motivation, in my opinion. But again, I'm not a lawyer. I'm just a guy with a really stupid beanie on. Final note. Alphabet attorneys presented an email from a Morrison and Forrester lawyer who was involved in investigating Otto before Uber acquired it. The email indicated Lewandowski had files that had highly confidential information, including source code, design software, and everything you need to create a self-driving car. And yeah, actually, that's entirely what it said. It was like the third bullet point in this email that I assume was an evaluation. That was an evaluation of Otto for Uber about what the risks were. And interestingly, in this email, this point is actually the email notes it as a warning. Hey, he has sensitive information. He has all the information you need to create a self-driving car. That's very suspicious, and that's a huge liability. That's what the email said. Kalanick probably read the exact same thing, and he didn't see a liability. He said, "This is my way of getting ahead. I have the information I need to make my cars, and that's all I care about right now." And you know what? He probably did. And in fact, I'm wondering sometimes, does Kalanick really grasp the mess he got himself in with this? I mean, not that I really care for his well being. I believe he should go to jail. I mean, not only for this, but even for the crimes against humanity on the drivers who drive for Uber and the rate cuts and everything, the way he destroyed so many lives. I think he should go to jail for that. I mean, he won't. He's going to go to jail for this, if nothing else. But I'm wondering, as the trial starts, has it finally sunk in that this is really happening? Like, does he sit in that courtroom and does he look around and kind of go like, wow, I done screwed up. I screwed up so bad. I wonder. I wonder. Uber as a defense doesn't have to prove anything, which is important. I mean, this is how a lot of shady companies get away with things. Just cast enough doubt on Waymo's claims. Because here's the thing, and it's what you must understand. The way most court cases work, as I understand it, is that you can have a situation where it seems the evidence is so clear, but acquittal is still the only thing you can do. give you a good example, and I will probably get a lot of flack for using this as my example, but O.J. Simpson. I don't believe there's a whole. I think most reasonable people out there believe he's guilty. I believe he is guilty. And yet, even with the evidence that strongly suggested he was guilty, there was enough doubt that it was not a certain thing. The LA police brought evidence home. They should not have done that. The gloves famously did not fit. Now we have come to an explanation on why they might not have fit, but they didn't fit when he put them on. Therefore, that creates reasonable doubt. And if there's reasonable doubt, you have to acquit. That's what it is. You have to acquit if there's reasonable doubt. So that's all Uber has to do. They just have to prove reasonable doubt. Now, will they be able to do it? I personally hope no, because their reputation precedes them. But they might, and that's all they need to do. And sometimes that's not as difficult as it seems. Continuing, Waymo has to prove both motivation on the part of Uber to intentionally steal trade secrets and that information Uber stole was proprietary, which that they probably will be able to prove. Now, will that be enough to prove without a reasonable doubt? Who knows? Quote, that was quite the story, Uber attorney Bill Carmody said in his opening statement. And he continued, I want to tell you right up front, it didn't happen. There's no conspiracy. There's no cheating, period, end of story. Which, yeah, I'm sure. And Uber did not pay off a hacker to not reveal that he had hacked the company and stolen personal information. I'm sure. Now let's get to Uber's strategy. 1. Uber argues that none of the files Lewandowski downloaded ever made it to Uber, which I'm just going to say right off the bat, this is already a really bad way to start. I mean, I guess I have to go with it because it's clear that they did know about the files, but you don't want to start off a case like, yeah, we knew about files and we saw them, but they didn't make it over here. I mean, that's like HSCB Bank saying, yeah, drug dealers came in and they offered us money, but we didn't open accounts for them. They just, stashed the money in a corner for them. That's all they did. You can watch the Netflix docuseries Dirty Money if you want to know the story about that one. I think it's episode 4 or 5. 2, Uber argues that any information Waymo alleges is proprietary is actually in the public domain. I don't believe that for a second. Self-driving cars have not begun to be seriously developed until now. I mean, come on. Do you realize how long it takes for things to become public domain? I mean, geez. Steamboat Willie, a 1928 cartoon, is still copyrighted by Disney. It's just, we live in a world where nothing goes in the public domain. And it's not like, and self-driving cars might have been on and off development for years, but they weren't around since the 30s. 3, shift any culpacity to Lewandowski. Uber's attorney said how the company regrets hiring Lewandowski and that he was fired for not cooperating with the case. However, it's worth noting that Lewandowski wasn't fired until about 3 months after Waymo filed the suit against Uber. And we have at least some documentation that I'm aware of where Kalanick has actually said we should defend my brother from another mother. So that's what's going to happen. Yeah. Now, granted, before I continue, I should know I've been covering Uber pretty extensively to the point where if they ever did go out of business, I don't know completely what I would do as a channel, which is why I've started to branch out into other topics so that the channel doesn't die when Uber dies. But some of these things that they're claiming, it's like, you know what? I was showing off evidence that this wasn't the case months ago. So, hey, if any of the lawyers from Waymo want to, comb through my videos, they're They're in my channel. Just got to watch them. You can use them in this case. I will gladly let you use them for free. 3. Uber claims the only thing it did wrong was hiring Lewandowski. Wow. Wow. That's the ignorance, the absolute ignorance. In fact, Uber attorneys presented an email between Alphabet executives who called Lewandowski's characters into question, making the point that the company still brought him on. Yeah. Um yeah. And here's the evidence that we presented, which again, I will link to below. The article, you can look at it yourself. It doesn't really show up very well on this live stream. So 4. An email between the founder of the Google self-driving project, Sebastian Thrun, and the former vice president of corporate development at Google, David Loy. Quote, I now question whether Anthony is fit to lead Chauffeur. What is Chauffeur? That must be another company that they're working on. I hear similar concerns from the engineering team. Several people have contacted me that they have concerns about his commitment and integrity. As Google, I suppose I am willing to take the risk with Anthony, but I can say definitively that if I was choosing a business partner to start a company with, there is no way in hell I would proceed. Yep, that's from the vice president of corporate development at Google. Wonderful, right? I think we're on 5. They actually don't have these numbered. I'm just trying to do this for my own sake. Blaming Lewandowski could bolster Uber's argument that Waymo's real motivation for suing Uber is retribution for losing Lewandowski, other top talent, and possibly ceding ground to Uber. No, that is so not the case. I can tell you with a lot of confidence that is not the case. 6. Oh, sorry, chapped lips. Uber attorneys presented emails from Google's head of people and culture, Stacy Sullivan, that said Alphabet CEO Larry Page was upset Waymo, quote, allowed Lewandowski to leave the company. The email also read, quote, Larry is worried he's going to start something competitive. Well, yeah, but here's the thing. Most companies don't sue other companies when talent leaves them for someone else. That's the whole point of being a at-will state, because both companies are based in California. They can fire you and you can leave. You're not forced to work there. Never have been. Sorry. And so I can't think of I can't think of a situation or a lawsuit where a company has sued. I mean, I think some like music artists get sued if they breach the contract. And that's why Prince said he felt like a slave because he couldn't leave Warner Brothers without breaking his contract, thus incurring very, very big penalties. But that was an exclusive contract. If Lewandowski didn't have one and Google really wanted him, why didn't they have him under exclusive contract? Just a thought. 7. In later emails between Waymo CEO John Krafik, wow, what a bad name, and head of people operation Joanne Chin, Krafik expressed his concerns about losing key self-driving talent. In an email after 2 more people moved to Lewandowski startup Auto, Krafik wrote, quote, need a plan during Krafik's testimony. Uber attorney side emails wherein he revealed Waymo was in the middle of a hiring freeze as well. Now, I don't doubt this happened because if talent is leaving, and yeah, you need to do something. But the need a plan was probably how can we retain our talent, not who do we sue that's hiring our engineers. Maybe we should have some contingency so that they can't leave us easily in the future. 8. My job as CEO will always be about hiring great people and retaining great people, Krafik said whether he was concerned about attrition. Well, that pretty much says what I feel. 9. Another email about talent retention from former head of Google's self-driving project, Chris Urmson, to Page, Sergey Brin, and other top executives in 2015. It says, Uber is making a significant investment in self-driving cars. This is particularly noble as they have the existing business in place to roll out effectively. Uber is acquiring the people I suggested we hire 1.5 years ago, but was denied the opportunity to do so. And again, I believe this email is legitimate, but that does not suggest that Google is suing Uber because of this. This is Google realizing that they're having a hiring and retention problem, which is something Uber will never personally publicly admit to us. I think this is 10. Waymo's preoccupation with Uber has indeed been evident since 2015. An internal Waymo presentation Uber attorneys presented reads, what would it take to consume all of Uber's profits in 2025? This is probably also true. And again, that comes from the systemic belief in this business culture that a company not only has to be number one, they have to dominate and consume. It doesn't actually lead to anything good happening. It never has. So there you go. I think we're getting close to the end of this article, and then we'll open it up to some Q&A. It'll be up to the jury to determine if Waymo has presented enough evidence to prove that not only did Uber steal trade secrets, that the company was using them in their current self-driving technology. Painting Waymo as a company that was growing increasingly concerned over losing top engineers to Uber, in addition to harboring personal grievances against Lewandowski, could help the ride-hail company convince the jury that Waymo had ulterior motives with its lawsuit. Again, that is probably true. That is probably true because, again, most lawsuits that get dismissed when there seems to be a lot of evidence against the defense is that the defense is able to plant reasonable doubt. Now, so far, for me personally, there is no reasonable doubt whatsoever. So I personally don't see this holding up, but who knows? Uber might have more emails that could present reasonable doubt. And if they can do that, Google's in trouble. But here's where I'm now starting to shift a little on the lawsuit because I was definitely very, very much into this happening. And I wanted Uber to suffer, and I still want them to suffer. But the problem that I'm seeing now is that this doesn't seem to be about justice. This definitely seems to be about controlling a potential future business. Now, granted, I believe Uber did do something wrong, and I believe they deserve to be sued for this. But I don't think Google's reasons for suing them are entirely altruistic because I think even with the stolen patents, Google's Waymo self-driving cars are very different from what Uber's doing. Uber is basically fitting cars with technology. Waymo is making the cars themselves. That is very, very different. That is a very different approach to how this is being done. So you could argue that in a sense, this actually might in a way be fair competition because you have two different methods to do the same business, except they're just slightly different. And whatever one is the way people want to do it is the one way that it will go. Or maybe there might even be a balance between the two, although that would be difficult again because the operating systems and the cars, they all need to be by the same company or else they don't talk to one another, which, is one of the reasons for the dominance thing. So, yeah, it definitely seems like, Uber stole secrets because they wanted to get ahead. Google saw they stole secrets and realized this was the opportunity they needed to get ahead. And that's where we're sitting right now. That is where we're sitting right now with this. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens at this point. Either way, that's enough for my rambling, so to speak. And I might end up repeating all this in like a daily rideshare video somewhere down the line. So, or maybe I'll just edit this one so that there's like less pauses and stuff, but who knows? So anyway, I see there's 13 people watching, which is fine. This is definitely this is a tough subject to get into and to make entertaining. I understand, but do any of you have any questions before we sign off? Because I am definitely well. Let's see what some people have been writing first. Because let's see here. Okay, we have hello. I personally can't wait for Uber to go out of business. So sick and tired of them. I agree. KB says I am from the future. Awesome. So who wins Best Picture at the Oscars on March 4th? Because I would really like to win that betting pool. I lost big time with La La Land. Oh wait, no, actually, I won because I actually did bet on Moonlight. Yeah. What was the one that I lost on? Oh, I thought The Revenant would win. It was Spotlight. Okay, Levy Macklin said, I'm an Uber driver and I agree that it will be a problem, especially with GPS issues. Yeah, that's probably the system thing. Okay, I guess we're going to just go down a little bit. If it doesn't fit, you must have quit. Yep, famous line. Hey, brother from another member, I remember that line in There Will Be Blood. Yep, classic movie. Doc Rock said, on another point of view, since Uber doesn't have any of its own money, means again, they're blowing our rate increases on lawyer. Yeah, that's the thing. Uber doesn't have anything to themselves. And one of the reasons the SoftBank deal was so important for them was that they needed steady a steady source of income, and they essentially got it with their SoftBank deal. So yeah, I agree with that. Doc Rocks also said L Dog is a scapegoat. That's how it works in corpo world. Well, I believe that to be true to a certain extent. Uber is certainly making him out to be the scapegoat. But what's interesting is on Waymo's side, they are hinging on Travis Kalanick being the scapegoat. And this is where it's definitely this is where it gets a little complicated because on one hand, if what is said is ultimately true, Anthony Lewandowski did ultimately steal the documents. He stole the documents. We have to acknowledge that. So he deserves to be the scapegoat. And Uber is putting the blame on him because they might be able to avoid penalties on them if they do that. But Google, on the other hand, are not pinning it on him because if they do, they don't have a strong case, even though at the end of the day, he is the reason all this is happening ultimately, and he should be dealt with properly. But there's bigger stakes, so they're going to twist the story however they want. DH, this is high tech stuff, Kevin. Very interesting though. Thanks. Southside Players at Peace. A. And DH also said you should be a professor, Kevin, at UCLA or somewhere in your state. Yeah, I don't have a college education. Not going to hire me. David MD5 said, I used Uber a few weeks ago, popped me for $37 to get there and then $107 to get home that night. Huh? I'm not really sure I get that. Queen Brooksy said, I'm just waiting for Uber to actually throw Travis under the bus as a last-ditch effort to stay afloat. And by the way, Queen Brooksy, I agree. I agree. In fact, that is probably what the ultimate end game is. That's the Hail Mary pass. And it's going to be a lot easier to do that now that Kalanick doesn't own so much of Uber now. Who is texting me at this time of night? Oh, my dad. Sorry, guys. I'm just gonna screw with him a little bit. So the fun of live stream. But yeah, Kalanick will definitely be thrown under the bus at some point because Uber will at some point have to make him the culprit. Here's where that gets tricky, though, and this is why it will be a last-ditch effort because Kalanick controlled so much of the company, and the company, the board members and stuff, let him do it and agreed with a lot of his stances, and that makes the company look bad. That means the company cannot possibly let this has to be the last-ditch effort. This has to be the last ditch effort, because if they throw Kalanick under the bus, there is a very real possibility that they will throw themselves under the bus. It's like filing for bankruptcy. Filing for bankruptcy is not a get out of jail free card. It is more of a stay of execution. Yes, your business gets to continue to operate, and some companies come out of bankruptcy unscathed, but it royally screws you and bones you in every other possible way. And the amount of companies that get out of bankruptcy unscathed is a lot smaller than the people that do. So, because Kalanick has such a huge association with Uber, they will not throw him under the bus unless they absolutely have to, because they are then opening themselves up to being thrown under the bus with him. So David MD5 said, "You seem smart." Oh, thank you. And see you later, Uber. Do Uber on. Okay. So, any more questions? Got to run room, catch all around. Good job. Thanks. So, do we have any more questions, guys? Otherwise, I'm getting a text from my dad. I think he wants to talk to me about something, and I think we've said all that we could possibly say about this particular topic right now. So, anyway, I know that this is not the most fun live stream in the world. There was like a lot of technicalities. However, if you do want a fun um, live stream, we will be live streaming podcast style on Wednesday. And should everything go according to plan, um, well, oh Dad, tell Mom not to go to bed just yet, then, because I'll be done in a moment. Um, but hi, Lauren. Uh, yeah, on Wednesday we'll be doing. If everything goes according to plan, we'll have Uber Hints, Drive Girl Drive, Your Driver Mike. We'll have all of them doing a podcast style. We may even go over some of this information again, and we might get other people's perspectives. I've got a list of topics I want to talk about. I'm going to whittle it down. I'm kind of, because it's my idea, guess I'm going to be the mediator on all of this. So ironically, you might not hear as much from me on those, but we're going to see how it works. But that's Wednesday, 3 p.m., and you're all welcome to come, and I encourage it. So anyway, thank you everyone for watching the live stream and listening to me ramble. This was a lot of fun. At least I'm going to find this very interesting. My channel is, I can already tell you this is going to be, I'm going to be having some very interesting videos to make about this in the future. So stick around for that. You may like this video or other videos I make. You can comment below. And if you enjoy the videos I make, consider becoming a Patreon member and subscribing. And as always, flame responsibly, and I will see you on the Daily Rideshare. Have a good one.